Hello TBL Kutas family, you're welcome back to my channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching my videos and liking them. Thank you for your words of encouragement in the comment section, and also thank you for the positive feedbacks. I really appreciate them. This video has been long way overdue. I recorded this video more than 2 years ago and I never got to post it. I have so many of them like that. In this video, I'm going to show you how to draft this dress. It's a simple DIY video, so you don't have to stress yourself at all if you're a beginner or you're a pro. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So I have here on the table all the things I'm going to be needing for the drafting. I have my pattern tools, my markers, my scissors, I have my pattern paper, I have the fabric itself, and I have my basic pattern set. The basic sleeve, the bodice block, both front and back. These are what I'm going to be using in this video. I already traced out my basic bodice block on a fresh pattern paper, both the front and the back bodies on a fresh pattern paper with my tracing wheel. This is the front bodies and it's matched up with what I traced out previously, and also this is the back bodies. This is my basic sleeve which I already traced out. I'm going to set all this aside to work on the style or the design that I want to achieve. The very first thing I'm going to do is to extend the length of my bodies. I'm making a 3/4 length dress, and the length I have on the pattern paper is just a measurement from my shoulder tip to my hip length. So the very first thing to do is to extend the length from the hip length to the desired dress length that I want. I went ahead to take the measurement of what I have on the pattern paper presently. I noted it down, which is 60 centimeters. 60 centimeters in inches is 24 inches. What I'm going to be doing is to add another pattern paper to extend the length of my dress or the outfit I intend making. So the very first thing I did was to take my pattern paper, cut out the length I wanted, and I went ahead to tape it down with my masking tape. Once I was done with this, I extended the length downward with my ruler. So I was careful in extending the length. I did not just use my ruler to rule. If you are very conversant with pattern drafting, you know you need to make sure you have precise measurements on your pattern paper. Otherwise, it's going to affect the dress or the outcome of the dress. So I was careful in extending the length of my pattern paper to match up with the desired length of the dress I intend making, and I added a little bit of seam allowance at the edge and cut off the excesses once again. I'm done doing all this. The next thing to do is now to transfer my measurement downward. The first thing I'm going to do is to measure what I have at the hip line, at the front hip line, just the way I'm doing on screen right now. Whatever I have there, that is what I'm going to take downward. Let's say, for instance, my hip circumference is 100 centimeters. 100 centimeters is 39 inches. I will be taking 1/4 of my hip circumference, which is on the pattern right now, 25 centimeters, downward to the hemline. Once I'm sure of the measurements I have at the hemline and at the hip line, I will connect each of these lines from the center back upward, the mid, side front, and side back upward, and also center front, which I've done earlier. So I have the complete length of the desired dress I want on my pattern paper. I'm going to put B for back and F for front to indicate my front and back pattern. The next step is to walk around the waist. From the waistline to the hip line, I want to eliminate the waist that is at the waist to the hip line, leaving the one at the waist to the upper bodies. The first thing I will do is to measure what I have at the waist at the front. I will take it to the side front and do the same thing for the back. Take it to the side back, then connect the waistline where I just eliminated the dart to the hip line using my curved ruler. Once I'm done with these two eliminations, I'm going to be highlighting the pattern paper with a red marker for us to see clearly, and then go ahead to use my razor to erase the dart at the lower part of my bodice from the waistline downward. Once I'm done with this, the next thing I'm going to be doing is to separate the lower part of the bodice from the upper part of the bodies, because I want to work on the upper part of the bodies. For the upper part of my bodies, I want it to have two darts, the waist dart and the side dart. The side dart is also referred to as the straight or the underarm hole dart. So I want it to have that at the waistline and at the side dart. I'm going to be marking my dart along the bust line, the bust area. That is why it's referred to at the side, because it's going to be happening at the side front. The first thing I'm going to measure is my nipple to nipple points. I'm going to mark it like so on my bust line, then go outward from that very measurement I just did by 4 centimeters, because I need to distance the dart from the bust point itself. Once I'm done with this, the next thing I'm going to do is to create my side dart or my straight dart. So I'm going to go up at that very angle by 2 centimeters, then come down also by 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters in inches is 0.75 thereabout, and I will connect it to the bust line at the measurement where I came out by 4 centimeters. Once I'm done with this, I have done imputing my side dart, my straight dart, or my underarm dart. Whatever measurement I did there, I need to take it back to the waistline. So what I'm going to do is to measure from the waistline downward 4 centimeters, and I will connect it back to the center front. This is very essential. That is all I'm going to be doing for my front dart piece. Once I sew my dart in, like I'm showing us on screen, my side front and my side back is going to align together when sewing, because I've added my dart intake back to my waistline at the lower part. So I'm going to be sewing the side dart and the waistline dart to give me a kind of contoured shape around the bust area, or to make the bust area protrude a little bit. The next thing I'm going to be working on is the back bodice. For the back bodice, I don't want any dart to be at the back side of the dress. The only dart I want is at the front side and at the waistline. And what I'm going to be doing on the back bodice is dart elimination. Instead of creating a dart, I'm going to be eliminating the dart. Dart elimination is just simply removing your dart. I don't want to sew any dart at the back. So what I'm going to do is measure whatever I have, take it to the side back and connect it back to the armhole side. What I just did now is dart elimination or dart removal. I'm going to be sewing the back bodice without sewing a dart at all. And then for my back neck depth, I'm just going to come downward by 2 centimeters at the back neck, then connect it back to my neck point at the shoulder line. This is all I'm going to do for the back part of my bodice. So I've worked on the back bodice and I've also worked on the front bodice. The next thing I'm going to be working on is on the lower part of my bodice, which is the skirt area. I can call it the skirt area because the lower part is either trouser or skirt. So I'm going for the skirt area. I'm going to cut out my skirt pattern first because I want to add volume to this. If you look at the dress itself, you'll notice that the lower part of the dress is free. So it's in form of an A-line skirt, but not too voluminous A-line. What I'm going to do is to add a little bit of volume at my side front, my side back, and my center back to give me the kind of volume I want for the outfit. At the M line of my side front, I'm going to mark some measurements. This can be your desired measurement. It can be 20 centimeters, which is 8 inches. It can be 10 centimeters, which is 4 inches. What I measured there is to my preference. I extended it outward by 10 centimeters, then connect it back to the hip line. I want it to be fitted from the waist downwards to the hip and be free from the hip downward. So once I'm done with this, from that very angle, I went up by 2.5 centimeters. 2.5 centimeters is an inch to give me a curved line at the M area. It's not meant to be sharp, it's meant to be curved. With this, I'm done with the front side of my skirt or front side of the lower part of the dress. And what I'm just going to do is to cut it out and work on the back skirts. For the back skirts, I'm going to be adding extra pattern paper at both sides of my back skirts. You can choose not to add at the center back, or you can add at the center back, but for me, I chose to add at both my side back and the center back. I will be adding volume to both sides. For the side back, I'm going to add the exact amount of volume or numbers I added to the side front, because I'm going to be sewing the side front and the side back together. But for the center back, I have a choice. I can add the exact amount or I can add more or less. But for this particular style, what I decided to do is to add less. For instance, if I add 10 centimeter to my side front and side back, I can choose to add 5 centimeter to the center back. After extending outward, what I will do next is to connect back to the hip line, just like I did to the front piece earlier in the video. Then also mark my 2.5 centimeters from the M line upward at both side back and center back. And I will use my curve ruler to connect it appropriately. With this, I'm done with drafting or styling the lower part of my dress on my pattern paper. This is all that I have. I've gotten my upper bodies, the front and the back, and I've also gotten my lower bodies, the front and the back. What I'm going to do next is to cut on my fabric before going ahead to cut my sleeve. The reason why I'm doing this is because my sleeve is a bishop sleeve and it's going to eat into the fabric. I'll prefer cutting out my dress before going ahead to work with the remaining fabric for my sleeve. The very first thing I'm going to do is to fold my fabric into two, place my front piece on it, pin it down, add all the necessary seam allowance needed for it, and I went ahead to cut out. I repeated the same process for the back skirt, added my seam allowances, and I went ahead to cut out my back piece just like the way I cut out my front piece. For the upper bodies, what I'm going to be doing, I will go ahead to cut the upper part of my bodies. For the front piece, I'll be cutting it on fold my fabric into two, placed my pattern on it, and go ahead to add my seam allowances and just cut out my front piece. But for the back piece, I'm going to be adding zip at the center back, just like the way I did for the lower part of the back piece. I added my seam allowances and my zip allowance and just went ahead to cut it. With this, I'm done cutting the front, the back of both the lower and the upper part of this dress. And finally, for the sleeve, I will be using the remaining fabric. For the sleeve, it's going to be a bishop sleeve. The very first thing I'm going to do is to fold my fabric into two, check out the width and the lengthwise of what I have, then find the midpoint of the fabric. I'm going to find the midpoint of the fabric, rule up and down the midpoint of the fabric with my chalk for me to know that is my midpoint. From the very edge of the fabric, I'll come down by, you can do 6, 7, 8 centimeters, you can do less or more. I'll come down from the midpoint of the line ruled. I will measure some centimeters towards the right and the left, away from the very angle I came down by some centimeters from the top, just to create that volume. Then bring out my pattern, trim it out, cut out a little bit because of the band I'm going to be adding towards the end at the wrist area. Once I'm done preparing my pattern, I will go ahead to fold my sleeve just like the way you are seeing me do on screen into four. You can actually divide it in numbers. I just feel it's easier for me to fold it into four by using this method. So you can use any method that is best suited for you. The folded lines, I will go ahead to cut them to give me 4 pieces. And it is this 4 piece that I'm going to be using to add volume to my sleeve. From the very midline, I will come out by the centimeters I measured earlier, and at both the right and the left side, depending on the amount of fabric you have. If you have more fabric, you can add more volume to this, but if you have less fabric, you won't be able to add more volume to your sleeve. So what I did here should be 10 to 15 centimeters. For the outer edge of both my front and back sleeve, I went out by enough centimeters. The amount of width of volume I'm giving this sleeve is the fabric that I have. So this is what I did for the sleeve. I've forgotten the exact measurement I did, but I knew I added enough volume according to the fabric left for making the sleeve. Once I'm done, I went to the upper edge of the fabric, curved to the right, curved to the left, and at the M line also, I extended downward on the fabric and curved my lines. Added seam allowances to both sides of my sleeve, and what I did was just to cut. This is the particular style I did for the sleeve. So once I'm done cutting the sleeve, this is how I'm going to gather the edge of the sleeve. This is what I have. I'm done with the sleeve and the bodice pattern, and this is the piece I'm going to go ahead to sew it. I wasn't able to show the sewing process. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Please, if you are just coming across my channel for the very first time, please like, subscribe and share this video. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think about the outfit? Till next time, bye bye.